my gosh, I spent 20 hours last month doing whatever small task that I could easily pass off to someone else. Like, imagine what I could do with 20 hours extra in my month.
Hey everyone, today I am thrilled to be joined by Ashley Mason. If you don't know Ashley, she's the founder of Dash of Social, a content marketing agency specializing in social media management, blog content, and email marketing. Working closely with their clients, Ashley and her team help small businesses and tech startups craft executive value-driven marketing strategies designed to establish thought leadership, grow online communities, and drive brand awareness. Ashley, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Brooke. I'm super excited to be here.
So excited to chit chat with you today, but I've got to ask you the burning question that we all have to know, and I think we all love to hear. What made you get into this crazy world of entrepreneurship?
Yes. So I got my first taste of entrepreneurship back in 2012. I've always been someone who has always loved to read and write. And so starting a blog was something that just kind of came naturally to me. I started this blog when I was actually a sophomore in high school, and I treated it as if it was a part-time job, ultimately spending probably 10 to 15 hours on it per week.
Wow.
But I realized that I was devoting all of this time to it, but there were two things that were wrong with that. One, only my family and friends were reading my blog posts. And two, I was putting all this time and effort into it, but not really getting any type of return back. So I said to myself, what can I do to make sure that my content actually reaches the right audience, which was high school and college age girls at the time, and also perhaps monetize it in some way? And that's when I realized that social media and marketing would be the way to achieve both of those goals. So this was actually when Instagram was about 1 year old, maybe 1 to 2 years old. It was fairly new. So I got on the platform as a blogger and was able to use Instagram and Twitter to help grow my blog, which allowed me to become a micro-influencer. So I worked with various companies to attend press events, write about their products. They would compensate me just to bring awareness to their company. And it was a lot of fun. And so I started to, as I worked with these companies, started to really get an interest in marketing. And in addition to having this interest in reading and writing, I've also really loved the idea of owning a business one day, but just really never knew what that would be. As I got more into my involvement with marketing, I kind of had this aha moment where I was like, I want to pursue a career in this industry because I just enjoyed it so much. And so through the partnerships that I made through the blogging world, and through pro bono work that I offered to the companies that I already had relationships with, I started to get some freelance clients under my belt until one day, eventually, I started Dash of Social in September 2016. And this is what I've been doing ever since.
Wow, that's an amazing story. And I love that you were a micro-influencer, because I think that probably gives you like a wide lens of perspective when working with clients to try to amplify their content. So that brings me to the question, what kind of clients that you serve? I know in the bio you said small clients, tech clients, but give us a little bit of a look at the types of clients that you serve.
Absolutely. So I'm based in Massachusetts. So a lot of our clients are in Massachusetts as well, which I think is really fun when you get to have that local feel to the people that you work with. We tend to work primarily with B2B service-based businesses. So quite a few law firms, attorneys, accountants, financial planners, people who are kind of in that professional services space. But we also have our tech startup clients, which has been a lot of fun, and they're in defense tech. They're also in the commercial furniture industry. They're in all these different sectors, which is a lot of fun and really engaging to be able to work with them in various capacities. But they're really interesting to work with compared to like the small business owners, because they're typically so much more fast paced and there's so much growth happening. So it's a very different scenery that's going on, but both groups of people and individuals we really enjoy supporting.
That's awesome. So today we're going to be talking about mastering your calendar, which I am the worst person at managing my own time. So this is going to be a great talk for me. But why do you think getting control of your schedule and your calendar is so crucial for success?
Absolutely. I think first and foremost, it comes down to preventing burnout. I found that I hit extreme burnout back in August 2021 when I was not controlling my calendar was controlling me. And so when you have so many meetings and so many projects that are just on your plate, it makes it really difficult to ensure that you have time for yourself to take a break, recharge, and regroup in order to be successful within your next endeavor. And so being able to do less helps you to do more. And remembering that quote has been something that's been a little bit difficult for me. It's easier said than done ultimately. Yes. But knowing that if you kind of take some things off your plate, it gives you the capacity, the creativity, the energy to do so much more in the long run.
So dig a little deeper for me on that story of when burnout was happening. So that was obviously the event that prompted this whole thing. But if you feel like it, share that story with everybody. Because I feel like we have all experienced burnout. I think especially after the pandemic, much like you in 2021, I was just not happy. And I didn't realize that it was burnout that I was experiencing. We've had Andy Crestodina on the show to talk about burnout. Go watch his episode if you haven't. So do you mind sharing a little bit about that story?
Not at all. So as you alluded to, it did have to do with a pandemic. So I was fortunate in the sense that the pandemic doubled and tripled my business because everyone was going online, and people who never even had to think about marketing now had to suddenly build an entire online presence overnight. And I did see, of course, unfortunately, so many small businesses locally who were severely impacted negatively by the pandemic. And so when I was getting all of these businesses coming to me and all of these clients coming my way, I felt bad turning them away if I had too much on my plate, because I knew that there were people out there who would do anything to have work. And so I just kind of faced this internal guilt. And so I said yes to any and every person that came my way who needed support, because I also wanted to be there for them during such a difficult time that no one knew how to navigate. And so because I said yes to everything that was put onto my plate, it got to the point where I was working all day, every day, like probably 7 a.m. to 10 or 11 p.m. at night. And that wasn't because of the fact that I had terrible time management. It was just because of the fact that I literally needed every single hour that was available to me because of everything that I had on my to-do list. I think the aha moment or the epiphany that I had that made me realize like this is burnout and you need to do something to fix that is it was August 2021, and it was the night before I was supposed to leave to go on vacation to Cape Cod with my then boyfriend, now fiance's family. And I was up till 3:30 in the morning the night before, I guess technically the day of, finishing client work so that I wouldn't have to worry about anything while I was away for the week with them. And that to me just made me realize like, this is crazy. No one should have to stay up till 3:30 in the morning finishing things just so they can take some time off to relax. And again, it wasn't that I had bad time management. It's just that I said yes to anything and everything, and I didn't know when to turn something down or when to ask for help with it. And so we went on that vacation, and I said, when I come back, I'm completely changing my ways. Like this is not sustainable for me. And it was almost like I quit work to like cold turkey in that sense, where I came back from that vacation and it was just like a clean break of just setting that severe, hard work-life balance for myself and really ensuring I stuck to it.
I resonate with that story so much. I've been in that particular spot or a similar spot so many times throughout, even before I worked for myself and when I worked for someone else, I've been in that situation. So I totally get that. So you come home and you're like, I'm going to change it. What were the first steps you took towards gaining control of your schedule?
Getting comfortable with delegating was the first one. So it wasn't that I didn't have the support to delegate to, it's that I was so bad at just waving the white flag when I actually needed help. So I did have and still have a super talented and dependable team, but I just felt bad saying like, I need help. Or I think as women especially, we are perceived as weak, quote unquote, if we say that we need help with something. And I was so determined to prove myself, especially since I had only started my company when I was 19 years old. I was probably 23 years old at the time after the pandemic when this was happening. And I especially felt like I had to prove myself because I had so many people who were doubting my decision to just go full time into entrepreneurship and not taking the corporate route. So I think that kind of doing anything and everything myself led to that, but it really just came down to me sitting with my to-do list, going through my Asana project, and forcing myself to delegate the things that could be delegated to my very capable team.
Well, first, let me say I am proud of you, and it's commendable that you've done what you've done at such a young age. So that's right off the bat. You got to support people when they need support, and, kudos and hats off to you. But secondly, I think the amount of self-awareness it took, right? A lot of times I feel like self-awareness is this little thread that we're pulling at in a lot of the episodes, but you had some sort of self-awareness that said, like, hey, this isn't right. And if we want to continue to succeed, we're going to have to do something about it. So you had that. And then you had the follow through to make sure that it happened. So again, kudos to you, and just let yourself celebrate that by itself. Because I'm 40, I must be 44, 44 next week. And, there are some times when I don't even have that. So again, I just want you to know how important that is. But
thank you.
What about tools or techniques? Did you use any tools or technique like the Pomodoro method or time blocking? How did you start to manage your calendar more effectively?
Yes. So I love to time block. I mean, since I started my business, I've always written out daily to-do lists where I write from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m., here's what I'm working on. 9 a.m. to 10 a.m., here's what I'm working on. And so being able to really break down hour by hour ensured that I was able to stay on track. I also was more mindful of tracking my time on how much it took to do something, because I would spend a whole month tracking anything and everything I was working on. And then at the end of the month, I'd look back at that time report and see, oh my gosh, I spent 20 hours last month doing whatever small task that I could easily pass off to someone else. Like, imagine what I could do with 20 hours extra in my month. So I think I'm a numbers person. So I think just seeing the hard, cold data really stood out to me. And I think kind of having that proof that I could see where all of my time was going, that it didn't need to go, was incredibly important. And also with being able to control my calendar itself, of course, I use Calendly like many other people, which has been really helpful for being able to kind of limit when people can schedule meetings. That's a big change that I had as well. I mean, I used to have Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. open for meetings. And it got to the point where I would just have every day just full of meetings back to back. And it left me with almost no time to actually get the actual work that I had on my plate done. And in addition to that, the meetings usually left me with more work to do. So it was just like this crazy, like, hamster wheel of just never ending cycle that was going on. And so I had to realize that I really needed to get clear on what types of things needed to be meetings, or if they could be discussed through Slack or email. And also when I would accept meetings, and kind of put boundaries around that and limit certain days and times that I would be able to book calls with people. So that way I would have those hours open for those deep work sessions that are so important for knocking stuff off your to-do list.
Yeah. So I love that you mentioned Calendly. I use a similar tool. It's not Calendly. I used to use Calendly, actually. And I broke my Calendly into like different links for different things. So like sales, for instance, always takes priority, right?
Yeah.
So sales would have, like you were saying, like you would have more time available if somebody wanted to come in and do like a free consultation. But then, if a client just wanted to like grab me for brainstorming or whatever, or the team wanted to grab me for brainstorming, they had more limited time available on the calendar. Which brings me to a question of how do you, or did you, and continuing on, prioritize your tasks and those appointments that people were setting with you to ensure that the most critical aspects of your business received attention, but you were still getting to all the things?
Yeah. So it first started with me thinking about what days I actually wanted to have meetings open, realizing that allowing 5 days a week for people to for people to book a meeting just wasn't sustainable or working. And so I had to think about what days to accept meetings and schedule those calls would be best for me. And I realized that Fridays, if I can, I try to have a 4-day work week. And if I do work a Friday, it's to work on my own marketing. I don't like having meetings on Mondays because it's usually kind of like jumping right into the week and catching up on everything. And I didn't want it to be thrown off with calls. And Thursdays, I usually don't do client meetings or consultations because, to be transparent, my brain is usually mush by the end of the week. So I'm not very useful. So it made me realize that Tuesday and Wednesday would really be my sweet spot. Then I wanted to think about, well, what times of day would Tuesday and Wednesday work for me? And for me, I'm 100% an early bird, and I am most productive with my work in the morning. And so I realized that if I were to just kind of block all of my meetings for the afternoons on both of those days, I could dedicate 4, 5, 6 hours in the morning to just knock through my to-do list and then get all of my meetings done back to back. And I made that change about probably 2 years ago. And the results that I saw from it were instant, with just being able to see how much quicker I finished things. I also had way less meetings on my plate, and it makes you realize meetings that don't need to be meetings. It kind of brings awareness to that. And it just made a huge difference in being able to allow me to do more because I accepted less meetings on my plate.
I really love what you're saying because I do the same thing. Like, I don't allow Mondays and Fridays to be available. Now, if I wanted to like override it myself during a conversation, sure. But nobody can go into my calendar on Mondays and Fridays because, like you said, Fridays are like my creative days. This is when I try to do thinking for myself or my business. Yeah. And Monday, exactly like you said, it's Monday. Like, Monday is just never a good day for most part. But I also like that you're making me feel like I should be a little bit more brave, because I like that you said you took out Thursdays, because by then, being honest, your brain is mush. And I can agree with that in so many ways. So now I'm like, okay, maybe I take Thursdays away, and then maybe I do like the recording for this show on Thursdays, and that's my record day. Anyway, yeah. You have me like doing notes in my head on my very own schedule. So I already know that. This is valuable. How did you approach delegation? Because you said you have a team, and delegation's also one of those things that I feel like agency owners struggle with. And like you said, especially women, because we don't want to be seen as needy or weak, like we can't do something. So how did you tackle delegation to free up your calendar so that you could focus on the tasks that you need to be focusing on, which I'm assuming would be like the high value activities?
Exactly. So it first started with that time audit that I did of tracking all of my time and seeing how long these tasks were taking me. Because if I saw that there was one task that was more like of a lower level, but still important task that was taking me a ridiculous amount of time, instantly a light bulb went off for me. And I would say that's something that I can delegate immediately. But basically it started with just tracking all of my time and how long it was taking me to do everything that I was doing. And then also making a list of everything that I was doing, every task that I had been completing each day. And I would go through that list and kind of compare it to my time tracking and compare the tasks that took a big amount of time to the tasks that I was doing that my team could very easily do. And I just kind of had to get more comfortable with delegating the tasks that I didn't have to do necessarily. I primarily focus on strategy and overall creative direction for our clients, and then also quality assurance. So everything our team produces gets seen and approved, or get that stamp of approval by me before our clients see it. And so knowing that my team is incredibly capable of doing everything else, I was able to make that step much more easily with being able to get stuff off my plate. I am type A, so delegating in general, I think, is really hard. And I think other type A people can relate. So you just have this really high standard for the work that you produce, and you worry that the people that you bring on won't produce at that same rate or at that same quality. But for me, I just had to get comfortable and remind myself there's a reason why I hired these people and why I wanted to bring them into the Dash of Social circle. And now I just need to trust them to do the work. And so when I was able to really take myself out of the day-to-day and out of the weeds, really, it allowed me to focus more on that overall client strategy and creative direction, and then also focusing on sales, business development, and our own marketing, which for the longest time I never had time for because I was too busy doing client stuff.
Mm-hmm. I know that feeling all too well. How do you divvy up your time? So you just talked about all these things, which is still a lot, by the way. I mean, yes, you delegated and that's wonderful, but you still have a lot on your plate, as we all do. But how do you balance between client meetings, team management, sales and marketing, or revenue generating activities, and personal time?
Yeah. So I feel like it all came down to creating my ideal schedule. So in an ideal world, I'm actually completely done with client work by Wednesday afternoon, Wednesday evening. I do work longer days, Monday through Wednesday. As I mentioned, I'm an early riser, so I do wake up at 4 a.m. And I'd say I probably stop working around like 5:36. But I feel like with the way that I work and how my brain produces at its best capacity is actually having longer days and just getting everything done in maybe 3 days instead of 4. Mm-hmm. So it makes it so much easier to have those 3 days focused on all of my client tasks and sales meetings that I have with potential clients. Maybe it needs to spill over into Thursday morning, but then ultimately having all of Thursday if possible, or Thursday afternoon and Friday to focus on my own stuff. So in addition to having the time blocks for meetings, I also have days of the weeks that are blocked for certain activities. And I found that made it really possible and much easier for me to actually make sure that I was getting around to my own stuff. Because if I told myself, oh, I'll wait until Thursday afternoon after everything's done with client work to work on my own marketing and stuff, I would never end up doing it. So I try to reserve like a full day to my own marketing, my own business development, because treating yourself like a client is just as important.
Truer words. Okay, tell the truth. All this said, do you still find yourself getting overbooked from time to time? And why do you think that is, if you do?
Yes, I definitely do, but I would say it comes in seasons. So I feel like probably a lot of marketing agencies, honestly, have different seasons within their business. For me, I'd say Q4 and Q1 are always slammed because people want to get stuff ready for the new year with their marketing. Yeah. Yes, exactly. Yeah. They have all of these ideas and goals and they're excited. And so I know that things are going to be super busy in the fall and in the winter. And I'm okay with overbooking myself during that time because of the fact that I know that spring and summer, I don't want to say slow down, but more so remain steady. So it's like I know that it'll end up balancing out my time if I kind of go a little bit harder in the first half of the year and then have the second half of the year to really take that step back and relax and have more time back into my schedule to do more personal things. I also am a little bit lenient of when I will book meetings. So even though I say that I book meetings Tuesdays and Wednesdays from 12 to 4, if there's a client who request a specific day and time and it's a client I really enjoy working with, then I will always like bend the rules for them because I really like them and really enjoy working with them. And I think that also goes for clients who are like the high retainer clients, the ones who pay more. I'm always more flexible with those clients and making sure that they feel supported.
Yes. I really like that because it makes me feel better about like overriding my own rules, but I think I override mine too often. So that's my takeaway so far is like, you got to be a little tougher. You got to be a little more strict, maybe take some of those days down. Okay. So now what happens if there's an emergency or something unexpected happens? How do you manage that without causing disruption to this beautiful ecosystem that you've built?
Yeah. Oh, that's a great question and something to think about. I would say if that happens, I usually bring in one of my team members to help if I'm able to. If it's something that I have to do, then I'll kind of pause whatever I have going on in order to address the situation at hand. But if something last minute comes up, I mean, this often happens with clients who are like, hey, can you pull a post together about this for today? And we're like, okay, I guess we can do it on the drop of a dime. But that's where having a team really comes in handy because when it was just me, everything fell on me. So if all of these fires were happening and emergencies were going on, I had to like just figure it out on my own. But knowing that I have 3 to 4 people behind me who I can say, hey, the situation's happening. Could you help me with A, B, and C? I know that I can turn to them and help get it done, especially because my team usually doesn't have meetings. They're not client facing in that aspect of being on meetings. So they're able to kind of not be caught up in calls themselves. And they usually have the bandwidth ultimately to tackle those things head on.
Nice. And what about out of office messages? How or do you use those as a way to like mitigate those little like last minute pop-ups? Maybe you do, maybe you don't, but I'm just curious.
Yeah, so I don't think I've ever used like an out of office message to share like response times or anything. I do have a clear onboarding process for clients where I kind of like lay down when I'm available, how much notice I need for posts. I also have that written into my contract, so they kind of know, and they have a clause that they've signed off on that kind of outlines expectations. But I think it really just involves having expectations with the clients that you're working with right off the bat so that they're not expecting you to respond sooner than what you're able to. And then everyone feels like they're really supported in that sense.
Yeah, I like that. We have that language in our agreements as well. And we have a rush fee. So it's like, hey, if you really want to get it done, here's the rush fee. We can do it, but it still can't be, you know, a day turnaround or whatever the situation is. So I like that too. What about technology? You've mentioned Asana. You've mentioned Calendly. You said that you do time tracking. How does technology play a role in helping you manage your schedule? And are there any apps, tools, platforms that you highly recommend?
Yeah, so I think technology helps to automate. I mean, especially in marketing, we want to automate as much as possible where it makes sense. And so for me, I mean, using something like Calendly automates people booking calls. I mean, we've all been in that position where we're going back and forth with multiple people offering the same days and times for meetings. And then next thing you know, 3 people have picked the same day and time. So being able to use something like Calendly ensures that there's no overbooking or double booking in that aspect. I also think that Asana, or really any project management tool, is wonderful for helping you with just having all of your tasks laid out for you and the due dates. You can set recurring tasks. So if you need to do something every day or every week, it allows that to do so for you. And then the time tracking tool that I mentioned is Toggl. So Toggl is really helpful because I have a project set up for every client, and I can actually see each month how much time I'm spending on each client, which is not only helpful for delegation, but it's also helpful with giving me a heads up on when I might need to raise prices as well.
That is so smart. Can we talk about that for a minute? So I use time tracking as well. And we've talked about this on previous shows. But yes, even as the agency owner, I think you should be tracking your time because as Ashley is so eloquently talking and stating here is that you now have actual data to tell you where you spent your time. And you'll be surprised sometimes at where that time is going. And this allows you to understand, should I raise my prices? Should I hire a VA? Should I get somebody to take care of XYZ that's taking me so long? So can we talk about that for a second?
Yeah, let's do it.
Do you book your time always? Obviously, you said you just book by clients. And then what about like your time, your own time? Just give me all the goods on your time tracking system.
Yeah. So as I mentioned, I have a project set up in Toggl for each client, and literally anything and everything that I do for them, even if I know it's going to take me 2 minutes, I add it to Toggl or I start the timer as I'm working on it. And I think that's so important because I realized that this was something that happened when I was bad at delegating, but there are so many things that I was saying yes to because I was like, oh, it'll only take me 5 minutes. That's fine. Well, if you have 100 things that are going to take you 5 minutes, now you have 500 minutes or however many hours that is. Yeah. So it's really important to be mindful of that and ensure that you're kind of knowing where your time is going to, because like we chatted about, it'll give you a heads up when you need to delegate or when you need to raise your prices because you realize that your team is spending way more hours on a client that you thought you were, and you're not getting compensated fairly for that amount of work. So it's really helpful for being able to understand that and then make adjustments as needed moving forward. But I also recently started time tracking my own work. So whenever I'm doing my own marketing, my own sales calls, being able to have that timer running so I can understand and actually make sure that I'm treating myself like a client has been huge as well, and ensures that I hold myself accountable to that moving forward.
Yes, I really can't recommend time tracking enough. Yes, even you, agency owner. Um, and I love that you're tracking your own time because I do that too. Because, if sales are down, I can go look at my time tracking and see like, oh, well, I've been spending plenty of time on sales. So, market conditions, et cetera, et cetera. But let's say I go in there and I see, oh man, I've been spending a lot of time on marketing and writing content or creating content, and I haven't been spending enough time on sales. Well, then I know, like, whoopsies, I need to fix that and
Yeah.
spend more time on sales versus marketing. So I really like that you mentioned that. What are some of the most important lessons you feel like you've learned about time management as an agency owner?
I would say to hold boundaries. It took me so long to actually set these boundaries in place because I felt bad and I felt like I was going to make my clients upset. But one of my clients actually gave me this incredible advice probably 2 years ago that completely changed my perspective on everything. And so to kind of give you a short story of this situation where I heard this amazing advice, I have a client who's a financial planner. She owns her own firm, and to me, it seemed like she was out of office more than she was in office, spending time with her family, doing fun things, but she is absolutely killing it in her business. And so I said to her, like, how do you do it? Like, how do you have so much time to like do fun things, but then also still be incredibly successful with your business? I was like, don't your clients like get mad that you're like not available for them? And she said to me, and I'll never forget this, she said, people don't care when you work. They care if you do the work that you'll say you're going to do when you say you're going to do it. So ultimately, people don't care or place all this importance on you being available on a Thursday at 1:30. They care if you deliver your project to them on the day that you said that you would have it delivered to them. And my mind just went like, boom. And I was like, that's so true. Like, people don't care if you're going to be around every single second of the day. They care if you're giving them what you promised you would give them on the day that you said you would give it to them.
Yes, I love that a whole bunch because that's really kind of the message I give my team. I'm like, look, I don't care if you want to work from 2 a.m. to 7 a.m. or if you want to work on the weekends only, or I just don't care how you get it done, when you get it done. I care about the quality of work. It needs to meet, expectations. And I care about deliverable times. So making sure that if we said, and really in my world, I feel like if I say I'm going to deliver it to you on Monday, I'm actually going to try to get it to you that Friday before.
Oh, yeah.
I don't ever like to push things to the last minute. Today, I was like working on a deck that's due for a speaking thing I have coming up, and it's not due till next Wednesday. And I caught myself going like, I don't have to turn this in till next Wednesday. But next Wednesday, I'm going out of town. So I'm like, Brooke, shush, finish the deck and make sure you turn it in tomorrow by Friday. Like, it just, I think it is a mindset like you're saying, but it really does, even though it sounds like we're saying like, oh, it's making it more like we have to work more. It really makes it easier.
I agree. And I also faced like this similar guilt. I had mentioned having my 4-day work week. I faced this similar guilt about taking Fridays off in the summer. I don't know if it's this way in other parts of the country, but here in Massachusetts and probably most of New England, summer Fridays are a thing. So if your company isn't taking at least a half day, they're giving you the full day off. And it's just something that people do because we don't have that much time for great weather around here. So I had originally started wanting to take Fridays off in the summer, but I was so scared because I was like, what if someone needs something from me and I'm not available because I'm at the beach or something? But then I had to remember that one, many other people do that too. And two, this is another quote that I heard and I cannot remember the source, but it also has changed my life forever, which is the quote, poor planning on your part does not necessitate an emergency on mine. Yes. And that means that if something is coming in urgently on a Friday, it's likely not actually an emergency. It's likely because it's poor planning on the other person's part, and now they suddenly need something done ASAP. So remembering that got me a lot more comfortable with just being able to take that day off for myself. And I actually had a lot of positive feedback from that, about that from clients. I had set like an out of office up to be sent out every Friday if a client emailed me or if anyone emailed me. And it was like a fun message about like, oh, I'm taking summer Fridays. Like we only get so much nice weather here in Massachusetts. Hope you're getting out in the sunshine too. And it was just very light and airy and fun. And I received so many email responses back to that out of office from clients or the people who are like, oh my gosh, I love this, enjoy, like so glad you're out like having fun. And that was a huge validation for me, just hearing from other people like, yes, you have permission to do this. And I think it made the decision to go all year round, having only that 4-day work week, so much easier for me.
Well, I think that's also a testament to the type of clients that you have.
Yes.
So it sounds like you've done a very good job of finding the clients who you really want to work with and who are going to be positive and say things like, I'm so glad you're taking some time off versus I can't believe you're out on a Friday, right? But also I love that they responded to the out of office. So back to out of offices again. I used to say, I will be traveling for work or personal or whatever it is, and I will not have access to email. And then I was like, well, but everybody has access to email. So then I changed it to, and I will have limited access to email. And then I was like, our phones are literally like glued to our faces. So it's not even that I'd have limits. So finally I just said, like, I'll be out of office these dates to these dates, and I will not be very good at checking email. Like, I'm busy.
Like that.
I'm not looking at email. And I feel so much better about that message going out. I haven't gotten like the kudos that you have, but I just feel better about it. Like, hey, look, I'm out of town. I won't be checking email. And maybe like you said, I will put, if I'm out on a Friday or the next time I'm on vacation, like I'm trying to get a tan. I only have so many days in the year that I can make this happen. Please let me have my time.
Exactly. And when you like spend like a fun way on it, I think people are just so much more open to it. And I mean, everyone's in that position too. Everyone takes time off. So just kind of remembering that you're not alone in that sense. And it's quite normal to take time off, even though that's something I feel like a lot of us entrepreneurs are very hesitant to do. So just getting used to the fact of doing that.
Yeah, I think entrepreneurs and Americans, I have a lot of friends who live in other countries and they take a whole month off. They go on holiday for a whole month during the summer. And I think just, societal norms here in the US have us working and thinking that working like crazy is some sort of badge of honor. And it's really not. Like you said, all it really does is lead to burnout and inefficiencies. And, I'm sure at some point ends up being detrimental to the business altogether.
Absolutely.
So, okay, for all of the new agency owners who are watching or listening, and maybe they're struggling to manage their time or control their calendars, what are 3 big pieces of advice that you would give them?
Hire people before you're ready. I feel like I've made the mistake of hiring people when it's too late, when I'm really thrown into all of these projects and now I have to suddenly get all this stuff done and somehow onboard and train a new team member. So I'd say hire as soon as you see a time that you need help. I would also say to get clear about what days of the week and what times on those days you're most productive, and reserve those times for having your own projects that you're working on or client projects that you're working on, and have the other parts of the week, so the other parts of the days, be meeting times. You definitely want to take advantage of the times when your brain is the most energetic and most focused with being able to knock those tasks off your to-do list. And I would also say, which we've chatted about so much, but it's really just track your time. I mean, understand which tasks are taking the most time, understand which tasks absolutely can be delegated, and then also understand which tasks from that time have to truly come from you and can't really come from someone else.
I love that. And just another question here, because I'm curious or nosy, however you want to put it. How did you find your best days and times? And how did you get to that 4 a.m. wake up time? Were you in sports or something? Or how did that, I just have to know, how did that happen?
Yeah. So since I was little, I mean, I feel like I've always been an early riser, not 4 a.m. early riser, but I would say probably like 6:30 was kind of like the norm. But in high school and the first half of college, I worked at a coffee shop and worked the opening shift. So I would wake up at 3:45 in the morning, and so I could get there at 4:30. And so that just became my normal wake up time. And it's something that my body is used to. And for me, I know that I struggle with having the focus and energy at night to get stuff done. So I'd rather start my day much earlier when I know that I'm awake and I have the time and the energy to focus on things. And so that's just kind of been my sweet spot. But I also will say something that has helped me with my time management is making sure that I spend a few hours each morning having my morning routine. So I don't dive right into work. I take some time to have a cup of coffee, journal every morning, which I've been doing every day since 2024 started, and then also going for a run for at least an hour before I actually sit down at my desk and dive into client work.
I hope to be like you when I go up, because that sounds like some serious discipline, and I'm so just enamored with you. I think you're awesome. Where can everyone find you? What are you working on? All the good things.
Yeah, people can find me at dashofsocial.com. They can also find me at Dash of Social on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. I also hang out a lot on Twitter. My handle is Ash Jean Mason, and I'm excited to just be continuing to support small businesses and tech startups with their social media, blog content, and email marketing.
This has been a fantastic conversation, much needed for me, hopefully much needed for you too. Thank you again, everyone, for joining us, and we'll see you next time.